Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. So, today I wanted to talk about how the media is having a bit of a meltdown post the election of Donald Trump. As I predicted, they are going hard after censorship, trying to bring that into fruition because they're saying that just like they did in 2016 that Trump won the election because of disinformation, and your great aunt was getting disinformation on Facebook from the Russians. So that's why Trump won the election. It had nothing to do with running a bad candidate, as Hillary Clinton was just not likable, a huge warmonger, and just seemed like someone that no one wanted to trust. And then Kamala Harris seemed like she was drunk half the time, and it's two reasons why both those ladies lost the election is because of misogyny and or racism or just disinformation on the internet. All these podcasters that were hosting JD Vance and Donald Trump, they're the ones to blame. The media doesn't want to look in the mirror and see that maybe they had a role to play in losing their credibility for themselves over the last several years, especially the last 4 years since 2020. But the best representation of this that I found was on the Morning Joe on MSNBC. Always good for content over there. They had on a guy named Jim Vendelay that was accepting an award last week for some kind of exceptionalism in journalism. He's from Axios, the CEO and founder of Axios. So yeah, he definitely is a stellar example of honest journalisming. Let's go ahead and watch first his award speech that he was giving, part of that they played on Morning Joe, and then let's see Joe Scarborough's reaction over on MSNBC to it too.
The media, like, it is not true. Think about what makes this. I love this country. I'm a beneficiary of this country. Like some from Wisconsin who can come and start two companies, be up here, win an award, sit next to Mikey. I'm a beneficiary of it. But there's something about the country. There's something about it, right? There's something about freedom, capitalism, the animal spirits of democracy. But at the core of that is maybe transparency, maybe a free press, maybe the ability to do your job without worrying to go to jail, maybe the ability to sit in a war zone and tell people what's actually happening so they're not just looking at distortion matters. It matters profoundly. It's why it's not like we just love getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning doing this every single day. Like, we do it because we love it. We do it because it matters. The work that we do matters.
So yeah, he's acting like this is some kind of thing that not every other job consists of doing something you don't want to do. You have to get up early and go to work. They're acting like journalism is the hardest job on earth. It feels like there, and these people consistently they act like they look down upon blue collar workers. Remember back in 2020 when Biden first won the election and then he took office in January 2021, like the first week, he, ended the Keystone pipeline that, you know, cost, every American who knows how much in increased energy costs, but also all those workers that were working on the pipeline, all those pipe fitters and welders and you name it, those people lost their livelihood. And the people in the legacy media, I remember them, they were saying, oh, these people should just learn how to code if they lost their job, if they were laid off because they're in an industry that we don't like, just learn to code. They had no regard for those people's well-being. And then remember when, I guess it was in 2022, when some some of the mainstream media companies were laying off a bunch of their journalists and whatnot, the people, the blue collar workers were then on Twitter and saying, "Oh, they should just learn to code," and those people were getting, you know, getting banned off of Twitter for saying that because the journalists were like, "Oh, this is hate speech." It's like you guys were just saying the same thing when the shoe was on the other foot. But anyways, they're coming real hard after Elon Musk, now and X because they don't have the control anymore. They don't want people to get their information from anywhere else. They want to have all the social media companies and the legacy media to all toe the party line of the Democrat Party, and they hate it that they lost this election, and they don't want it to happen again. And they're gonna do, they're gonna do whatever they can, in 2 years if the Democrats get control of Congress or the Senate again. That they're gonna be coming hard after Elon and probably trying to put him in jail like they tried to put Trump in jail, and trying to take X away from him, say that he's causing hate speech or whatever, by letting people just letting free speech thrive there. That they hate that. They've become the party of censorship and the party against free speech, which is completely bananas because they used to be the party of free speech back, many years ago. But let's go ahead and see Joe Scarborough's response. He'll get to that in just a second. There's a little bit left of Jim's speech here.
You have to do the hard work. You have to get up every single day and say, I want to get to the closest approximation of the truth without any fear, without any favoritism. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
Yeah, come on, slow clap, everybody. Whoa. First of all, I've got to say, extraordinary content. It needed to be said.
Yeah.
It continues to need to be said. When all of the garbage is flying around on social media, lying about reporters, lying about the hard work they do, lying about the hard work editors do, lying about everything up and down about not only their alternative set of facts, but alternative set of facts about what people like you do. And I love how you connected reporters in Mississippi in the 1960s to reporters fighting for their life to get the story out in the Middle East today. Jim, it was very powerful.
Really good.
Very powerful. Even if even if we had to beep you more than we would if we ran a Dave Chappelle concert.
I
it was
like
still
it.
good.
Jim's mild-mannered.
He
preached it, though. The cadence, I might get him ordained.
Well, let me just say, why this is so important right now, more than ever, is because critics of the press are feeling more empowered than ever to lie more than ever. I've had friends for years going, I'm so overwhelmed, Joe, by the news. I don't read the news. I go, where do you get your news then? Epic Times. I go,
Oh, God.
You get your news from a website run by Chinese by conspiracy theorists in a Chinese religious cult. That is where you get the no. Or if social media, people lying every day, every hour, every minute about the news. What you do matters. What the New York Times does matters. What the Wall Street Journal does matters.
All right, so he's just going on and on about how important this is. These things, like the New York Times, if they disappeared one day, I don't think it would make a heck of a lot of difference. It might even make things better for us. Who knows? I'm not saying that we should only have one side of the political spectrum being represented, but these people, they act like they've got the most important job in the world and the hardest job in the world. When if we lost all of our blue collar workers, let's say all of our plumbers were just raptured one day. Can you imagine the chaos that would cause in society? We've got this amazing system where, you know, when you need water, you've got water. When you need electricity, it's there. You got internet virtually all the time. You can always rely upon it. And, you know, it's just functions at a level that has never functioned before in entire human history. And these people, you know, they've just spewed garbage, you know, out of their newspapers and you know, on their TV shows for so many years, and people are finally starting to tune out or age out, you know. If you look at who their viewers are, I think the average viewer of MSNBC is like 70 years old. So that's not a good business model. If I came to you with a business proposal or anyone with that idea and said, hey, all of our consumers, you know, the average age of them is going to be 70, and we're barely going to get any new younger viewers in, just like the bare minimum of those. You'd be like, I'm not investing in this. This is a failing business model. When these people age out and they're not around anymore, there's going to be no future for this company. We're not going to make any money off of that. It's just going to be a slow, steady decline, which is what we're seeing. You know, these people, they lied to everyone really going back who knows how long, but especially since 2020, that's when a lot of people's eyes were really open to how disingenuous and dishonest these people were. They just lie every single day, especially on this channel, MSNBC. And it's gotten to the point where NBC is going to sell them off because they don't even want to be associated with them, because it's tarnishing the entire reputation, because people know that they're, you know, that NBC is the parent company of MSNBC. So they don't even want to be associated with them anymore, because it's ruining everyone's trust in the news that's on their separate channel of NBC. So no one's even watching that nightly news because they know it's completely screwed and, you know, skewed in the direction of the Democrat Party. It's basically a propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. And you can name, you know, any number of these channels that is the same thing. CNN's the same thing. They're having to lay off, you know, tons of their staff because their ratings have taken just a huge nosedive post-election. And now they're freaking out about it. And they're coming after, you know, independent content creators, where they're acting like people are getting all this disinformation, which, I mean, obviously that there will be some of that. But for the most part, if you're talking to a conservative, they know what the Democrat argument is and what the, you know, conservative argument is. They've seen, you know, these arguments be steel-manned, versus if you're watching MSNBC or CNN, they're just going to be straw-manning and giving the weakest argument for the conservative side. And most of the shows, I feel like you're not really getting these thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations. There's no logic or reason being levied in these conversations. It's just, you know, they'll have like one conservative guy getting yelled at, and they're just trying to create drama, so it's just like a shouting match. And there's, you know, you have like 30 seconds to say your soundbite, and then they're hoping that they get like a good 30-second clip that they can put on TikTok or share everywhere to actually get some decent views with a younger audience. But let's go ahead and get back to the last portion of this that I want to show.
But Jim, here's the deal that I explained to my friends that go into the gutter and get disinformation. I say, there's no cause for them lying to you. But if Jim Vandehei has a reporter that gets it wrong, well, they're editors. If the New York Times gets something wrong, or the Wall Street Journal reporters get something wrong, they're editor after editor after editor after editor, and they check it, and they make sure it's right. They make sure it's double and triple sourced, and still sometimes they get it wrong. Mm-hmm. And so then what happens? They either retract it, or most likely they get sued if they don't retract it, right? So there are checks and balances there that you don't find in the gutter when you're on social media just following algorithms that lead you to liars.
And it's
Is that true, though? I don't think that's really connected to reality, what he was just saying there. Because, the New York Times will get something completely wrong, and then a couple of days later, they'll issue a correction on like the 13th page when the main story where they broke this this big news story was on the front page. And by that time, the damage has been done. The low information voters, the people that have the propensity to vote Democrat, they're going to already have in their head that Trump did this or the GOP did that. Remember in 2016 or 2017 when the story of the girl getting separated from her mom, and they said that Trump's administration had separated them. It was a picture of the crying little girl. I think it was on the Washington Post or one of those newspapers. I'm not sure which one it was, but they had the crying little girl, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is so terrible. They're separating her from her mom," and it's just the little girl crying with a ICE agent at the border, a border patrol agent there. But turns out the mom was just like 10 feet away. They were, collecting the DNA samples to make sure that she was actually related to her, and turns out they were never actually separated. And the whole story was just completely false, and they just tried to show it in a negative light to make Trump and the Border Patrol look bad. And that's something that you have to do when a minor is coming over with someone and they say, "Oh, I'm her mom," or "I'm her dad." You have to check to figure out if that's true, because if they're lying about that, what else are they lying about to you? That person could be trafficking that little kid. And God knows how many women or children have been trafficked to the US over the past 4 years for horrific reasons, and that we're never going to know about. We're never going to know those numbers of the number of people that has happened to. This country, as we all saw, anyone that saw the Sound of Freedom last year, we know that the United States is the number one consumer of trafficked children. So it's horrifying and it's disgusting, and people have turned a blind eye over it because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris turned a blind eye to it because it's good. They saw opening the border as helping their political party long term. There's no other reason why you would do that. We've never had an open border like this in the history of the country, or any country has had an open border like this where you just let everybody in and don't vet anyone. It's just so that they can have their long-term goals met of, trying to give these people amnesty and hopefully having all those swing states turn blue and never lose an election again. That was their entire goal of that, I think. And I haven't heard any other reasonable explanation as to why else they would do that. So yeah, that's just one example. Or there's the other example with the border where they said Trump was putting kids in cages, and that was a big story. And then came out like a couple weeks after that, the picture of the kids in cages actually happened under Barack Obama and Joe Biden as vice president. So yeah, that didn't look so good. But by the time that came out, the damage had already been done, and a lot of people didn't hear about the correction, unless you actually were watching some right-wing news sources, or consuming some independent content on YouTube or in a podcast or whatever. So yeah, it's crazy to me that they're attacking all these people that have this genuine information, obviously there's a caveat to that. There are some people that, are dishonest and, don't do their research and post, whatever, just to try to be the first one posting it or whatnot. But generally, this is an anecdote, but in my experience personally, I only know one person in my life, and I know a lot of conservatives. Majority of the people I know in my area of the country are conservatives. So these people do not follow, all that stuff. That I know one person that, has some crazy ideas, not QAnon, but QAnon type level of conspiracy theories. But on the other hand, I know a handful of liberals that will post the craziest stuff on, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but I was up until a couple months ago. But crazy stuff. I had a girl at my work just right after the Trump assassination attempt, the first one in Butler, Pennsylvania. She was telling me about how she thought that it was staged by Trump. It's like, multiple people died, and like, how do you think they orchestrated this exactly? So they told the Secret Service to, let him take a shot at him, or get on the roof and, take a shot into the crowd or whatever, and then you'll kill him, and then Trump's gonna fall to the ground and cut his ear with a razor blade out of his pocket or something. Like, are you even listening to yourself? But yeah, that's what, there was a handful of people that were, believing all kinds of this blue anon stuff, like the Russiagate. They were thought that, multiple people that I worked with thought that was true, and Trump was meeting with Putin and had been compromised by the Kremlin to enrich himself, and that stuff's just crazy, and I don't see the reality that, I don't think, these people, Joe Scarborough is really based on reality. He's seeing everything through his lens of Orange Man bad, and, everyone that believes him is a Nazi or whatever. But that's about what I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you will be notified every time I post a video, and share this video with your friends if you got anything out of it.